Welcome to the Deep Dive. We sift through, well, frankly, mountains of information to bring you the really essential, the provocative, the just plain fascinating stuff you need to know.
Exactly. And today, wow, we are diving deep into Sandra Bernhard, an immense career and, let's be honest, famously controversial actress, comedian, singer, author. She's done it all across, what, 5 decades now?
Pretty much, yeah. And she's worked across basically every platform you can think of.
So our source material today, it covers this huge range. It's not just the stand-up, which she's obviously known for. We're looking at her acting work, which is really varied, her singing, her books. It's a lot.
It really is. She's this artist whose main tool seems to be the completely unfiltered word, right?
Right. And she operates in this interesting space kind of between high art, pop culture, and some pretty aggressive satire. It's a mix that you don't see very often.
So our mission today, it feels kind of complex. We want to unpack this paradox, I guess. How did Sandra Bernhard go from being this stand-up comic, making her name by tearing down celebrity culture, to becoming this multi-platform artist, someone who brings together performance art, music, serious acting roles?
And the key seems to be she's always pushing boundaries. Always.
Yeah.
Which, naturally, leads to some pretty spectacular clashes with the mainstream.
Definitely.
And, if you need just one example of that incredible range, think about this arc. Way back, 1983, she wins the National Society of Film Critics Award for Best Supporting Actress, a really prestigious award.
To the king of comedy, right, Scorsese.
Yeah.
Intense dramatic role.
Exactly. Fast forward decades later, and she's playing Nurse Judy Kubrak in Pose, this landmark show about queer and trans ball culture.
Just such different worlds.
Totally. And it keeps going. She's got a role coming up, Nurse Cecily, in the new season of Severance on Apple TV plus Star. That's huge. That show's highly anticipated.
So that ability to not just survive, but thrive in such different spaces. Yeah. That's really what we need to dig into today. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Where did this famously sharp point of view come from? Sandra Bernhard, born June 6, 1955, Flint, Michigan.
Flint, Michigan, yeah. And her background, it sounds pretty traditional on the surface. Her dad, Jerome Bernhard, was a proctologist.
Right, and her mom, Jeanette Lezebnik, an artist. And she was raised conservative Jewish.
And those details, for a comedian whose work is so much about social commentary, they matter. You've got that industrial Midwest start, but then a really big change. The family moves to Scottsdale, Arizona. She's 10.
Scottsdale, that's a huge shift. Flint to Scottsdale.
Yeah, she graduates high school there in 73.
You have to think that contrast, industrial Midwest to the kind of sprawling, often wealthy, maybe more conservative Southwest. That must have given her a lot of material later on for her observational stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Being an outsider in that kind of sun-drenched specific environment.
Yeah.
And then right after high school, she does something even more unexpected. Our sources talk about this detour. She goes abroad to Israel.
In 1973.
Yeah, 1973. And she stays for 7 months. Lives on a kibbutz Kfar Menahem. So this wasn't just a quick trip. It was real immersion, communal living.
And the sources also mentioned she went back later during the Yom Kippur War.
That's right. Which is, wow, talk about intense life experience right out of high school.
Exactly. You contrast that kind of life or death international reality with, the suburban bubble of Scottsdale she just left. It gives you a whole different lens to look at Hollywood celebrity culture through, which she starts taking aim at later.
It totally connects to that intensity you see in her work. So she comes back to the U.S., skips college, basically.
Right.
And makes her way to L.A., and she starts making a name for herself at the Comedy Store in Hollywood. This is the late 70s.
The legendary Comedy Store.
The Crucible, yeah. And she gets established pretty quickly, which leads to this huge early break in 1977. She gets cast as a supporting player on the Richard Pryor Show.
Working with Richard Pryor.
Right.
Right off the bat.
I know. Incredible. That gave her serious industry cred immediately.
But okay, here's where it gets really, really interesting. Because she's on this stand-up path, but then takes this massive left turn into drama. The Scorsese breakthrough.
Yeah, it's a huge risk, right? For a young comic trying to break through, to take a role that's so far from comedy, Martin Scorsese casts her in The King of Comedy, 1983.
And the role itself, Masha.
Yeah, the stalker.
The stalker/kidnapper, yeah. Obsessed with Jerry Lewis's character, and she's just magnetic in it.
Yeah.
Disturbing, captivating. It's like she channeled all that outsider energy into this character who's like a terrifying reflection of the celebrity obsession she'd later satirized.
It wasn't just a bit part. It was a major role.
And the industry noticed immediately. The critical acclaim wasn't just polite nods, it was huge. She won the National Society of Film Critics Award for Best Supporting Actress, 1983.
She won it, not just nominated.
Who won it? And you have to understand, that award, it signaled she wasn't just a funny comic, she was a serious dramatic actor, capable of real darkness, real intensity. So that basically gave her the authority, the artistic license, to start blending genres later on, didn't it? In a way a few others could.
Exactly. Winning that major award for a dramatic film role while still honing her comedy chops, it totally changed everything for her. Gave her this platform, this freedom to experiment.
And she became unavoidable on late-night TV, which was, absolutely essential for comedians back then.
Oh, yeah. Our sources highlight just how ubiquitous she was. 28 appearances on Late Night with David Letterman, starting right there in 1983.
Letterman's show. That seems like the perfect fit for her, right? Intelligent, kind of cynical.
Absolutely. It was the ideal incubator for that sharp, acerbic personality she was developing.
But it sounds like the standard 5-minute stand-up slot wasn't really enough for what she wanted to do.
No, not at all. Her comedy was always more theatrical. It was cultural critique mixed with personal stories, musical numbers. It needed more space.
Right. It needed a bigger stage, literally, which led her to develop these one-woman shows.
That evolution starts with her first show, I'm Your Woman. That was 1985. And it got released as an album later.
Okay.
But the real breakthrough, the one that really cemented her as a performance artist, was Without You, I'm Nothing. With You, I'm Not Much Better.
That title alone.
I know, right? It debuted off-Broadway in 1988, played at the Orpheum Theater, big deal.
And what made that show different? What was the structure like?
Well, that's what really set her apart. It wasn't just jokes, joke, joke. It was this whole experience. You'd get these blistering satirical monologues tearing down celebrity culture. And then suddenly these incredibly raw personal confessional moments. And she used music, classic pop, jazz, blues covers to kind of bridge those different moods.
Just like emotional whiplash.
Totally. 1 minute she's eviscerating someone famous. The next she's doing this heartbreaking Nina Simone cover. That became her signature style. It felt like art, not just a comedy set.
And she was smart about getting it out there, wasn't she? She didn't just let it live on stage.
Very smart. She immediately understood how to translate that live experience. By 1990, Without You, nothing was adapted into a film.
Oh, yeah. The sources mentioned it was shot mostly at the Coconut Grove nightclub, at the old Ambassador Hotel. Very atmospheric.
Exactly. And at the same time, she releases it as a double album in 1989.
Wow. Film and a double album.
Yeah, she was thinking multi-platform way before that was common, like a producer as much as a performer, documenting her work, reaching different audiences.
And it worked. It got major recognition. She got a Grammy nomination, right?
Yeah. Best Comedy Album, 1990. For Without You, I'm Nothing. So even though what she was doing was way more complex than typical stand-up, she was still competing alongside the biggest names in comedy. It was huge validation.
It seems like the stage remained her, creative home base, though.
Definitely. That's where she had total control, where she could blend everything, the comedy, the music, the commentary. She went back to Broadway in 98 with I'm Still Here. Damn it.
Another great title.
And that got recorded for a live album, too. Apparently, she was actually pregnant during the Broadway run, which is just incredible.
Wow.
And she kept creating these shows, Everything Bad and Beautiful in 2006. That got a really well-received CD release, too. And Plan B from Outer Space in 2007. The live show is always the anchor for her.
Okay, so she's got this film award, these acclaimed stage shows. She's built up serious artistic authority. And that really sets the stage for her becoming this major force in pop culture in the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, and you really can't talk about that period without talking about Madonna.
The Madonna connection.
Yeah.
It was huge.
It was a time when, the lines between art, publicity, friendship, rumored romance, they were just completely blurred. And Bernhard was right in the middle of it all.
The sources call her Madonna's then good friend, but also mention the rumored lover aspect. It wasn't exactly kept private, was it?
Not at all. It felt very much like spectacle. Deliberately so.
And the peak of that spectacle was probably that Letterman appearance in 1988.
Oh my God, legendary. The two of them on Late Night doing this kind of staged, really sexy confrontation, openly hinting at this intense, possibly romantic thing between them.
On network TV in 1988.
Exactly. You have to remember the context. That kind of openly queer-coded interaction between two huge female celebrities, it was shocking. It generated so much press, constant headlines.
And their friendship seemed pretty documented for a while after that, too, right? Bernhard was in Madonna's Truth or Dare documentary in '91.
She was, which sort of cemented her place in that elite celebrity circle.
But then the sources say the friendship just ended pretty definitively in 1992.
Yeah, it seemed to burn bright and fast. But the cultural impact of that whole period, that very public pairing, it really vaulted Bernhard to a whole new level of mainstream visibility.
And maybe that visibility, that ability to generate buzz, even controversial buzz, helped open the door for her next big move, network television.
Absolutely. It leads directly into her joining the cast of Roseanne, which was, one of the biggest shows on TV at the time. Huge hit sitcom on ABC.
And she comes in during the 4th season, 1991, playing Nancy Bartlett. She stayed for quite a while. 33 episodes through 97.
And that role, Nancy Bartlett, it's actually really significant in TV history. We kind of forget how big a deal it was.
How so?
Well, this is the early 90s. LGBTQ plus representation on TV is still really fraught, politically charged. And Nancy Bartlett becomes one of the first openly bisexual recurring characters on American network television.
On a show like Roseanne. A mainstream working-class family sitcom.
Exactly. That was radical back then. Bringing an openly bisexual character into millions of living rooms every week on that kind of show, it was a major act of visibility and normalization, really.
So even with her edgy stand-up persona, she was using this mainstream platform to push social boundaries.
Yeah, she was working on multiple levels, and she never just did one thing, did she? While she's on Roseanne, she's also hosting this quirky movie show on USA Network, Real Wild Cinema. That was for 2 seasons starting in 95.
Oh, I remember that. And then in 92, September 92, she does the Playboy pictorial. Nude.
Right. Leaning right into the provocative image. So you've got the serious acting, the boundary-pushing TV role, and the shock value stuff. All happening around the same time.
She really defies easy categorization.
Totally. And speaking of different paths, we have to talk about the role that got away, the big what if. She apparently was offered Miranda Hobbs on Sex and the City.
No way. Miranda.
Yeah.
It's impossible to picture anyone but Cynthia Nixon.
I know. But according to Bernhard herself, she got the offer, and she turned it down.
Why?
2 reasons, based on the sources. She thought the original script she saw was, quote, terrible, and the paycheck was too small.
Wow. Turning down what became Sex and the City because the script wasn't good enough and the pay was low.
It tells you a lot, doesn't it? Even facing this potentially massive career-changing mainstream hit, her priorities were like artistic integrity and knowing her worth. She was willing to walk away.
That takes guts, or at least a very strong sense of self.
Yeah, that willingness to filter everything through her own lens, even if it's risky, that seems pretty central to the whole Sandra Bernhard story.
Okay, so most people know Bernhard the comedian. Maybe they know Bernhard the actress or the controversial figure. But one part of her career that often surprises people is just how extensive her music career is.
It really is. She's not just someone who sings a bit in her shows. She performs classic pop, jazz, blues, and really integrates it deeply into her stage work.
And the sheer volume of recorded work is impressive. The sources list, 15 albums and EPs that combine music and comedy.
Yeah, it's a substantial discography. And some of it actually charted, which people might not realize. Excuses for Bad Behavior Part 1 hit number 40 on the Billboard Heatseekers chart.
Okay.
And I love Being Me, Not You.
Yeah.
Another great title reached number 9 on the Billboard Comedy chart. So crossing genres even on the charts.
Let's think about the music itself. Often she's interpreting standards, right? Jazz, blues classics. That requires real vocal chops, real emotional depth.
It does, and it creates this fascinating contrast, doesn't it? She can deliver this blistering political satire, just shredding someone, and then pivot on a dime to sing this really heartfelt, vulnerable standard. It's like she uses the music to disarm you, to show vulnerability right before she goes back in for the kill with the commentary.
It keeps the audience off balance.
Totally. And what's even more surprising, maybe, is her success in a completely different musical arena. Dance music.
Dance music.
Seriously.
Seriously. She actually scored significant hits on the U.S. Billboard Hot Dance Club Play chart. Her cover of Sylvester's You Make Me Feel Mighty Real.
The classic.
Went to number 13 on the dance chart, and another single, On the Runway, hit number 39.
That's incredible. So acclaimed dramatic actress, groundbreaking comedian, and a charting dance diva.
It just shows how much she refuses to be put in a box.
And she even did a Hanukkah song.
Yeah. co-wrote and performed a song called Miracle of Lights for a holiday compilation album. Like you said, incredible versatility. She can connect with audiences through almost any genre, which feeds back into those really diverse live shows. And all that performance experience across comedy, music, theater.
Yeah.
It seems like it's really informed her more recent dramatic work, too.
Absolutely. It feels like a perfect training ground. Look at her role on Pose. That's such a great example of her staying relevant and deeply connected to queer culture.
She played Nurse Judy Kubrak from 2018 to 2021, right? 13 episodes.
Yeah, in the series that was just so important, focusing on the ball scene in New York during the AIDS crisis.
And Nurse Judy, she was kind of the compassionate caregiver, the advocate, wasn't she? Provided this granding, dramatic weight against all the fabulousness and the tragedy.
Exactly. It felt like resonant casting. You know, not just stunt casting. It connected back to her own history of LGBTQ plus advocacy, her identity as a bisexual artist. Just fit.
And she's kept busy with other high-profile dramatic roles, too. You mentioned Severance coming up.
Right. Nurse Cecily in 2025.
Right.
And before that, she did 6 episodes of American Horror Story, NYC, in 2022. So staying very active in major TV projects.
And she pops up in recurring comedy roles, too, like Joe Deaf or Joe on Two Broke Girls.
And Professor Teresa Ledarsky on Switched at Birth, she even played herself on Will and Grace. It's like she never stops working, always finding ways to use different parts of her talent.
Okay, now we need to shift gears a bit and address the controversies. Her persona is built on being unfiltered, right?
No.
But that approach has definitely led to some serious public friction over the years.
Yeah, this section needs careful handling. We're looking at the source material, reporting on these incidents and the rhetoric used, but, you know, without endorsing any of it. It's about understanding how she's managed this incredibly provocative public career.
Exactly. It's about examining where the line is, or maybe where different people draw the line between satire, provocation, and something else.
So let's look at some specific examples documented in the sources. One of the earliest, and maybe most shocking physically, was back in 1995 on Politically Incorrect.
Oh, yeah, the Comedy Central show. She was on a panel with John Lofton, a conservative commentator, and things got heated, like really heated.
The sources describe her actually getting up, standing over him, spitting at him, and then saying, and this quote is documented, "If I had you, you'd be an abortion."
Wow. The physicality, the spitting, plus that line, it went way beyond political disagreement. It became this huge media thing about, what's acceptable public behavior.
Definitely. Then jump forward to 2006. There's a controversy involving a commercial she did for MAC Cosmetics.
MAC, Makeup Art Cosmetics.
This one is interesting because it shows the clash between her unfiltered style and corporate branding. She was promoting a lip gloss, I think.
And what did she say?
Well, in the ad, she apparently targeted potential critics of her lifestyle or views. The documented quote describes them as a little freaked out, intimidated, frightened, right-wing Republican thin-lipped bitch.
Oof. Okay. An MAC's reaction.
They edited the line out of the commercial, completely cut it, which tells you even a brand that maybe wanted some of her edgy appeal felt that crossed a line. Too inflammatory, risked alienating too many customers.
So there are commercial limits to the provocation.
Seems so, but the rhetoric definitely escalated again in 2008. This time aimed at Sarah Palin, who was running for vice president.
Oh, I remember this one. This got massive coverage, didn't it? And a lot of outrage.
Huge. The sources detail Bernhard making this public statement where she warned Palin. She said Palin would be, quote, gang raped by her big black brothers if she visited Manhattan.
And this was directly tied to a planned campaign stop Palin had in New York City.
Yes. The explicitness of the violence threatened, the racial element, it was incredibly charged. It marked one of the most intense flashpoints in her career, really highlighting the risks of that completely unfiltered approach to political commentary.
It's extreme language.
Extremely.
Yeah.
And finally, there's an incident that shows how these things don't just disappear. In 2020, Naomi Campbell brought up comments Bernhard had made years earlier.
Naomi Campbell, what was the context?
Campbell was interviewing Mariah Carey, and she specifically called out Bernhard for comments made back in her 1998 comedy show, I'm Still Here, Damn It.
About Mariah Carey.
About Carey's black ancestry, yeah. Campbell cited Bernhard's disparaging remarks, and we have to include the specific quote documented from Bernhard's show. She referred to Carey, quote, acting real niggerish there at the Royalton Hotel suite with Puff Daddy and all the greasy, chain-wearing black men.
Wow, using that word.
Yeah, and having someone like Naomi Campbell bring that up publicly over 20 years later, it just shows that these kinds of racially charged, controversial statements, they have a long shelf life, They stick. It ensures that part of her legacy, the controversial side, remains very much a live issue.
So despite all the controversies, or maybe, in some ways, connected to her willingness to challenge norms, her work has undeniably been important for LGBTQ plus visibility.
Oh, absolutely. Bernhard openly identifies as bisexual, and she's been a really strong, consistent supporter of LGBTQ rights and activism throughout her career.
And that commitment was recognized formally, wasn't it? She received an award from Gilead.
Yeah, in 2002, the Gilead Media Davidson Valentini Award. It's given specifically to an openly LGBTQ person in the media who's made a real difference in promoting equality and acceptance. So her identity, her art, her activism, they seem completely intertwined.
And her personal life, her family structure, also seems to reflect a kind of non-traditional path, maybe.
Well, she has a daughter, Cicely, born July 4th, 1998.
Right.
And the sources are clear that she raised Cicely with her long-term partner, Sarah Switzer. They've been together since 1999.
So over 20 years, that's a long, committed relationship.
It is a very stable family life, it seems, alongside this incredibly public, often tumultuous career, which is another one of those interesting Bernhard paradoxes.
And before Sarah Switzer, she was in a relationship with Patricia Velasquez, the Venezuelan actress.
That's noted too, yes.
And besides the stage and screen, she's also an author. She's written books, ensuring she gets to tell her own story in her own words.
Right. She has 3 books out there. The first was an autobiography, Confessions of a Pretty Lady, back in 1989, right when her fame was really exploding. Okay. Then an essay collection, Love, Love, and Love, came out in 1993. And later, in 1999, sort of semi-autobiography called May I Kiss You on the Lips, Miss Sandra.
So whether it's comedy, music, film, print, she's always been focused on crafting and controlling her own narrative, hasn't she? Leaving you in no doubt about her perspective.
Yep.
Hashtag outro.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so wrapping this all up, synthesizing everything we've looked at today, Sandra Bernhard emerges as this artist who is just fundamentally defined by her willingness to provoke.
Right. Yeah, I think that's fair.
And that willingness, that edge, it's allowed her to stay relevant somehow across 5 decades, which is remarkable in itself.
It really is.
And it seems like her biggest successes often come when she manages to blend that satirical edge, that unfiltered commentary, with her actual dramatic or musical talent, whether it's on stage in the 80s or on a prestige TV show now.
I think what really stands out, looking at all this source material, isn't just the sheer amount of work, but her adaptability. She pivots, she changes platforms, but somehow she never really softens that core identity. You think about the journey, the intense drama of King of Comedy, then the raw, boundary-breaking humor of those one-woman shows, the Grammy nomination, and then landing these really significant, resonant roles in shows like Pose, reflecting modern queer culture. The constant thread through all of it is that voice. Unwavering, unapologetic, no matter the medium.
It really makes you think about her overall contribution. We talked about how important Nancy on Roseanne was for bisexual visibility on TV back then.
Oh, true. Cool.
We know about the music, the dance hits, the standards, the books, the comedy specials.
It's an incredibly diverse portfolio.
So here's maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. We've seen this huge range: author, actress, singer, comedian. Does that prove she successfully avoided being pigeonholed her whole career?
Yeah.
That she really is all those things equally?
Or does the sheer intensity, the undeniable notoriety of her public persona and those controversies, does that ultimately define her legacy more powerfully than the actual breadth and diversity of her artistic work? It's a tough question.